while, and I almost don't have a chance when he calls, right, Joni?
That's
we almost
right.
don't have, and then on top of it, Joni Ernst calls, and between the two of them, Kim,
we got a great
you
team.
get what you want, right? But we really do. We have a fantastic team, and also state and local officials and Iowans affected by this incredible storm last week. For those of you that don't know what happened, a powerful hurricane-force winds pummeled Iowa like I guess you haven't really seen before, right?
Yeah.
Has this ever happened, a thing like this?
Not to this extent have we experienced anything even close
The
to
size and the power of the winds. All Americans are united in grief and prayer for the precious life that was lost. So how many people were lost, would you say?
Right now, we've had 3 fatalities, and when you look at the severity of the damage and how widespread it is, and especially in Lynn County that you're in right now, it's been a blessing that we haven't had any more loss of life than we've had.
Oh, well, that's good. That's 3 is too many, but
3
that's
is
a lot.
too many.
And people injured, I know, but it's
Yeah.
but they'll be okay, right?
Yeah.
This took a big chunk out of your entire state, Chuck. This was a big portion. I guess more than half of your counties were affected, and some very badly, right?
About 113 million acres of crop.
Amazing. No, it's amazing. So my administration's already working with Iowa officials, some of whom are with us now, to provide aid and to assess the damage. Winds from 80 to 110 miles per hour have carved a path of destruction through over half of Iowa's really great counties, many of which I got to know over the years. Up to 43% of the state's corn and soybean crops have been damaged or totally destroyed. 332 cell towers were damaged, think of that, impacting 1 million residents. Nearly 500,000 of the Iowa electric customers lost power, but I understand the power is back to about 90%.
That's the goal by the end of the night, so we're making progress and getting closer.
And the power company's done a good job
Yep.
under the circumstances?
We had 595,000 households without power. 97% of Lynn County had no power from the storm,
Wow.
so unbelievable.
So they really did a good job getting
Yep,
it back, right?
yep.
So fast.
With the
That's
compact
fantastic.
aid, mutual aid, really implementing that, we've seen a lot of collaboration take
That's
place.
fantastic. Thank them for us. And schools here in Cedar Rapids were hit very hard, and many of the schools that planned to open are now going to be delayed, not for the pandemic reason, but for an unrelated reason that nobody thought would happen. So yesterday I approved a disaster declaration for Iowa, you know that? And it was done in record time, and we're offering the full support of the federal government, so you'll take care of that.
Sure.
And the USDA also announced assistance for impacted farmers, just as we delivered $117 million to the Cedar Rapids Flood Mitigation Project in 2018, and that was another big one.
Yeah.
Cedar Rapids has had a rough couple of years when you think about it, right? But we took good care of the flooding, and just like we did that, we're going to help you recover from the storm, and we'll get it done, and we'll all get it done together. Iowans have always been resilient and strong and tough and great people. From the depths of this grave hardship, we will rebuild even stronger than before. We're going to be in fantastic shape in a very short period of time. You have a outstanding group of people representing you, and maybe if I could, Kim, you could start off and say a few words as to what's going on and how we can further help.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I just want to extend my gratitude for the incredible turnaround time. In less than 24 hours, you were able to approve the major disaster declaration, and that provides a lot of insurance to our communities that have been impacted by the derecho. It's basically a 40-mile wide tornado that went through the state of Iowa, 112 miles an hour per wind, up to some of the highest speeds. And as I indicated, 595,000 households without power, significant damage to our electricity and communications infrastructure. But the capacity of our utilities to get people back up has been great. Appreciated Secretary Administrator Gaynor being on the ground yesterday and seeing firsthand some of the damage. 27 counties will be adding more, 16 public assistance in the disaster declaration, 27 getting individual assistance, and that'll have a huge impact on Iowans.
Good.
And just to
and
really
rebuilding,
appreciate
whatever
that.
you have to do.
Just so we're on the ground now.
How do you compare this in terms of damage with what you had with the flooding a year and a half ago, 2 years ago?
So this is just so much widespread. When you think about entire counties that have been taken out, you heard the senator say, over half of our crops have been devastated. We are anticipating these early estimates, about $4 billion worth of damage. 3.7 of that is through agriculture, between the loss of crops and structures, and then...
So this is even more than the floods?
Oh, yeah, yes.
Wow.
More widespread, and we'll have additional counties that will be added. They're working on that right now. The mayors will talk about some of the
Good.
early estimates that they're seeing, but significant damage. But we will come back stronger and better than ever, and we've got a lot of help, and we just appreciate the quick response
Well,
that we've been
you
able
have
to
your
implement.
friends from the Army Corps of Engineers. Nobody better. They helped you the last time. You
They-
didn't think you'd be back so soon, General, did you?
Well, I appreciate the response with the floods.
Well, Mr. President, of course, we work for FEMA and the administrator. We're very, very proud to be out here. We've been asked to do some assessments on some of the debris removal. We think they've got about 1.5 million cubic yards, and the state's going to do a lot of that heavy lifting. But whatever we can do to help, the Army Corps is all in.
So, Chuck, with that voice, wouldn't he be a great politician? His voice is almost as tough as yours. Not quite.
As long as he doesn't run in Iowa.
That's a good point. Chuck, what would you
Well,
like to say?
first of all, I think you're coming here and representing the federal government and as President of the United States to show your work and helping us work through this is very, very important. So we thank you for that. And if I were going to compare the 150 miles I traveled from Boone to Cedar Rapids Thursday, Friday, and Saturday last week, the damage to the crops, I've seen corn flat on the ground in my 50 years of farming, but I have never seen it mile after mile and, just flat on the ground, and very little of it recoverable, I think. So that's something to keep in mind. And I think that one of the things that make you proud of Iowans is, I think you probably know, neighbor helping neighbor, and things of that nature. So we thank you for coming, and the widespread damage that you're going to be alerted to, and the homes lost and the power outages and the crop damage is all important. But you're stepping up to help with that declaration, and we thank you.
And it's difficult because you had the largest order of corn in history. Did you know that last week? Yeah. From, of all groups, China. How about that? China. Which, I don't know, it makes you think a little bit, doesn't it? Huh? But China made the largest order of corn twice over the last week. So how does that affect an order like that when you have such damage to the crops, to the corn crops?
Well, I think last week when the price of grain went up quite a bit, it helps, but then that's going to help those people that have grain to sell, but the farmers that have been hurt with the damaged crop, the only
But
help.
are they able to fulfill an order like that? Will they be able to get an order that big?
If that's your question, the answer is yes, because we have so much carryover from the year
great.
before.
Oh, that's very good.
Yeah.
That's the two biggest orders of corn in history we got. That's because they think I'm not happy, and I'm not. I'm not happy at all. Just the opposite. Joni, please, go ahead.
And Mr. President, thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate your time and your assistance to the folks here in Iowa. And the discussion that we had yesterday morning, I thank you for that. And I can tell that you really do care about the citizens on the ground here. One thing that would be helpful, of course, with the impact to the ag economy, the loss of so many crops, is our farmers would love to know that with these gap year waivers that the oil refineries are submitting to the EPA, that we just dispense of those. We not allow them to move forward. Some of these waivers would apply to years 9 years ago, 8 years ago. Our farmers just really need some help this year, obviously, with the crop damage, and that would be a great step forward, is working
So
with
I approved the
EPA on
ethanol,
those.
and we did the whole thing with the 12-month and all of the others. Let me ask you, how is ethanol doing with with the markets, it's got to be a little bit tough, right?
It's very tough right now, and through COVID, we saw a decrease in driving, and so the sales of ethanol have not been up where they should be, and we've seen that all across the industry, the impact. And now, after the crop damage, it just sets our farmers even
But they'll be
further
ready
back.
when the market comes back. They'll be ready like never before.
Yes, they will. And what we need, just help from the EPA to follow the intent of the law with the renewable
All right,
fuels.
we'll speak to them.
standard.
I'll
Thank
speak
you,
to them
Mr.
myself.
President.
I'll
Thank
do it
you.
myself. Chad, please.
Absolutely. Well, Mr. President, let me again commend you, as the senator did, for coming here to Cedar Rapids. I think that sends a strong signal to all Iowans, and certainly thank you for providing the disaster relief funds that you have done so quickly.
Don't forget, this has been a very loving area for me. Cedar Rapids has been fantastic, and we've developed a lot of great relationships in Cedar Rapids, so I never had a doubt, really. So,
I had the opportunity last week again to talk with Governor Reynolds about the devastation. And of course, FEMA has been here really since day one, and Administrator Gaynor has been here over the last 24 hours, working with the governor and all of her staff on these priorities as well. And FEMA stood up really since day one, their regional coordination center here, to make sure that tie between FEMA and the state was absolutely critical and spot on. So it's there. You're certainly granting that major disaster declaration is a huge step forward to providing that public assistance and the mitigation assistance. So really want to thank you for all the work that you've done over the past several days to make sure that we get the resources to Iowans.
we wanted to get it done fast, and we did record fast. Pete, go ahead, please.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Again, thank you for approving the deck in record time. Really means a lot to the governor and her staff. We had a great tour yesterday. Went out. We saw firsthand the devastation. So aside from the level of devastation,
Were you surprised?
I was. I had
He's
not
seen it all. This guy has seen devastation like nobody, but this is bad.
Yes, sir. And so aside from the devastation, the thing that impressed me most was the spirit of Iowans helping Iowans out there. So volunteers helping volunteers with food. We just came from Operation Barbecue that's in the back lot of the airport, serving tens of thousands of meals. The National Guard on streets, clearing streets. Electrical restoration crews as far away as Nova Scotia here to help restore power. Really unbelievable. We have a ways to go, but the amount that they've gone so far, quite impressive. So we'll be here until we're done, right beside the governor and her team.
What is the timing, do you think?
Well, it will take some time to clear debris. I think debris is going to be the some of the hardest things to do. There's lots of it out there. So that does take time, but we have a plan to do it, and again, we'll be here until the job is done.
Can you find usage in some of the corn? Is it aged enough, or is it just really not going to be able to be used?
Well, Mr. President, I'm Secretary of Agriculture here in Iowa, and it'll depend. A lot of it, as the senator said, is it won't come back up. You won't be able to harvest it for any use. Some of it will, but there are millions of acres of corn that just won't flat out be able to be harvested. So, but to your point,
you've never seen anything like that.
no, not to the widespread. Governor mentioned it. I mean, we're talking hundreds of miles by 40, 50, 60 miles wide. It's not that It's not that we're not used to dealing with difficult weather in agriculture. It's just something of this scale is really tough.
What about other states, by the way? How was it? They weren't affected nearly like this. But
It started in South Dakota, went to western Ohio, but really if you get into western Illinois, there was some crop damage, but nothing like what you're seeing or what you'd see from central Iowa really into eastern Iowa. It took the bullseye.
Incredible. Okay, thank you very much. Good job. Would anybody like to say anything? Please, go ahead. Please.
I'm Brad Hart, Mayor of Cedar Rapids.
Good.
Welcome back to Cedar
Thank
Rapids.
you.
Thank you for your leadership, and thank you for the disaster proclamation. That is really important for us, and it's starting to, not only the federal aid, but the rest of the country is starting to take note. And so we're getting volunteers and help from around the country, and that's really important. Almost every one of our almost 60,000 homes and businesses had some kind of damage. That's how widespread it was. Most of the city didn't have power for a week. I still don't have power at my home, and there's about maybe another 20 or 30 or 40,000 people that are still waiting for power to come back up in
You
Cedar
expect
Rapids.
it when? When do you expect
Today,
everything?
hopefully today.
Oh, good. All right. Well, then
yeah.
they've done a very good job.
No,
That's
they
pretty
have.
good.
They've brought in thousands of linemen to work on this. One of the things that and I have a letter that I'll present,
Sure.
leave with you, but in the disaster declaration, if we could get the individual assistance, because so many people have not only, they may have homeowners insurance, but there's still a premium to pay. They still have to throw out food that the insurance won't cover. And most policies for insurance do not cover removal of trees. They'll pay to move it off your house, but not once it's on the ground, you have to pay for that. And that could be tens of thousands of dollars for lots of homeowners. And so adding the individual assistance component to the disaster declaration would really help so many people get those trees out of their yard and not have such a financial burden for them. So that would be a big help
How
for us.
have the insurance companies responded and acted, would you say?
Personally,
Have they tried to hold back?
From my house, they've been very attentive,
Good.
and I know that many of the insurance companies have brought in hundreds of adjusters to try to process claims. But it's hard when we didn't even have power and didn't even have cell service for several days.
Are you pretty well covered with insurance, sir? I mean, you have good
I hope so,
clauses?
but the trees in my yard will cost me lots of money, more than what my coverage is, and I have pretty good coverage. But I can handle that, but there's so many Iowans who cannot. So that would be a great help
All right,
for
good. We'll take
thousands
a
of
look at
those.
that. You know about that?
And it's actually part of the disaster declaration, and we're actually
be able to rebuild and rebuild right, not just cobble things together.
But you feel good about it.
I feel good about it.
And you really have good insurance. Most of you seem to have very good insurance.
Well, we've seen tornadoes before, and usually when we have a tornado, you know, it hits one spot. We actually feed cattle on 11 farms, and so, yes, we've had trouble before, but never on this many places at once.
So this was, in a way, less dangerous than a tornado, but much wider, right? But the point of a tornado is truly brutal.
You know, my wife and I were in the house, and we said, this is not a tornado, but when the siding went off the back side, we decided to go to the basement.
It
So.
might have been. He said, maybe it is a tornado.
Yeah, so it felt like a tornado. I don't know if it sounded like a freight train, but it was devastating.
That's incredible.
I never seen stuff go by the window so fast.
Good job. Very good. Please.
Good morning, Mr. President. Mayor Jarek Armstrong, Mayor of Clarence, which is about 35 miles east of here on Highway 30. It's a town of about 1,000 people, small town like a lot of communities in Iowa. And we just want to thank you for everything you're doing for the state of Iowa and all our small communities, because we are going to need the help. We were the hardest hit community in Cedar County. Numerous homes damaged, trees down, as the other mayors said. But you stated earlier the resilience of Iowans really came out last week, and I can say that for a fact in my community. The people that stepped up to the plate, the farmers that brought their equipment into town, got it out from underneath of their buildings that were collapsed on top of the equipment, and brought their equipment to town to help clean up the mess so we could get power restored to town, which we got back about 4 o'clock yesterday afternoon. It really brings out the best in people, and Iowans are some of the best at that. So we lost, there was a farmer north of town that lost a barn that was in his family for 8 generations. So it is something like we've never seen before. We just appreciate all your help. Thank you.
Thank you. Great job, too. And Kaylee, let me ask you, with all that's going on in the world, is the world aware of what happened in Iowa? Because it is really something. Well, we're going to take care of it. Would you like to say something?
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
It means a lot to us. I'm the executive director at Mission of Hope here in Cedar Rapids. I've been there almost 40 years.
Right.
We work to help people who are homeless, nearly homeless, living in poverty. And this week, I became one of those people. Our family lost our house due to the damage from the storm. And I know we'll be able to come back. We've got good insurance, like everybody sitting here. Really, really grateful for that. Just to echo what these guys said, we have a 2.5 acre wooded lot, fully mature oak trees over 100 years old, and we lost over 100 of them. It's going to be well in excess of $250,000 just to remove trees.
No kidding. Wow.
So,
that's incredible. That's a big part of it. That's a very big part of it.
It's something that our family, was not quite prepared for. We didn't even own a chainsaw. So, I want to shift gears for a second and talk about the people that I'm blessed and lucky to serve at Mission of Hope. They're hungry today, and it's day 9 with no power in that neighborhood, and they're not. I just went through our lines this week of people who were waiting for lunch, giving out hugs, even in spite of the pandemic. Just people are hanging on to a hug and clinging to personal words of encouragement. Their physical needs are not being met. They lost their food. Many of them have lost their shelter. They don't know where their clothes are. And as I mentioned, they don't have power. Though we do appreciate all the hard work we can see being done in our community, as of yesterday and this morning, we still do not have power. And finally, they need help financially. Due to COVID and the uncertainties of all the business being closed, many of them were just returning to work, and now they've been off work again. And so they're definitely hurting. We're strong as Iowans. You've heard that all around the table. We're strong and we're resilient, Mr. President, but we are tired and we need your help.
Okay. Thank you very much. Very much. Would anybody like to ask any questions? The governor, senators, or FEMA, or Chad, any questions for them concerning this situation, which we're going to take care of very rapidly in Iowa? Anybody? Okay, it's been very well covered. Senator, thank you very much. Joni, thank you very much. I appreciate it. It's great. We'll get it taken care of. We'll get it done very quickly. All of you will get it done. Ashley, we'll get it done very quickly. Chair, thank you. Governor, it's all done. So now we have to start working, but the papers are done. You're going to look into the one event quickly, and we'll get that approved. Okay? Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.